Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? We have a brand new episode of Marvel Yap for you guys today. Episode number 43. This is crazy. We're going to be talking about the OTA that we just had this past week, the brand new seasoned cards we have coming out. Do we have 8 cards? Do we have 10 cards? I don't even know anymore. We have a lot of cards to talk about, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, we are joined by the hostess with the absolute mostest, not my Dance. How are we doing today, Dance?
Doing real solid. It's been a fun time. I'm excited. There's a lot of awesome things happening in Snap. Rest of life's been busy. It's been nice and cool over here. How's the weather been over in Europe? Because you had some big changes in your house recently that I don't even know if everyone who watches these or listens knows about.
So for about a month, I'm living in Florida. In the beginning of summer, we have had no AC in the house. But as of last week, we do have AC, but funny story, the day before we got AC back in the house, I had noticed that I hadn't seen one of my cats in quite a minute, and this cat is notorious for escaping out of the house, but always escapes through the back door, because they know that's an escape place, so like we're always really careful, making sure she doesn't run out that way. So we hadn't seen her for like 24 hours, and I asked my wife and I asked my sister-in-law, I was like, have you seen our cat? Have you seen the cat? And they said, no, but have you checked the usual hiding spots? And granted, it is pouring down rain, and I'm trying to look outside for like the potential hiding spots in case, she ran out the back door, but I don't see her out in any of the hiding spots. And like I call my wife, and I'm like, hey, so I can't find her, just want to let you know. And she starts to get a little upset, rightfully so. And then I'm sitting on the couch, and we have had the windows open in the house because, to let it kind of cool off a little bit. And I look over, and the little protective area, that you have on the window seal to kind of so bugs can get in, that was pushed out, and there was a huge hole, and I was like, oh my goodness. She jumped out the window.
Oh, that's a problem.
And so I was
like,
this is in the front door. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was like, you know what? Let me try one more time. I go outside and I go, her name is Mary Jane, oddly enough. And I go, Mary Jane. Mary Jane.
Like the drug?
No. Like Mary Jane from Spider-Man. All my cats are named after like Marvel characters. I'm like, Mary Jane.
God.
And she comes out from some random bushes and comes straight up to me and allows me to pick her up and bring her inside. It was like the craziest like blessing that I was able to actually get her inside. She was super hungry, and then for like 2 or 3 days, all she did was eat and sleep. She didn't like try and play or anything. She just ate and slept.
That's so good.
So we got her inside. Did not lose a cat at all, but she had a little adventure.
Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of an adventure. Hey, I mean, that's a lot more adventure than I go on. Wow. All right. I mean, I'm glad you got Mary Jane back. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
God, that's it's scary when you lose like a pet runs away or something like that, and then you're just like, man, I hope it works. I remember when I was younger, I had a cat. Who I absolutely loved. His name was Spooky. Just typical black cat. But we loved him because what he would do is he would actually open the doors.
Oh.
Like he knew how to open door knobs. Like he would be like try to hit it a few times till it works. And he would always come up with me when I lay down on my bed and like I was reading books. He just sit right there and it was great. I remember when Lustin would look around everywhere because it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to say the ending of this because it's just not as nice as your ending here. I prefer your ending much more to the way mine ended. So I'm glad that you found Mary Jane.
Yeah, no, it was great. And we're talking about, like all these excursions and some crazy stuff and adventurous. And our topics today are a little adventurous too. Maybe not the first half. The middle, yes. The very end for sure. As we are talking about the OTA we've had in review. We took some of your ideas last week for your guys' idea for an OTA, and some of them actually came true to the OTA that we had, which is really cool. And then we have the Arcane Masters, which is the brand new season starting today, since we do upload this on Tuesdays, actually on Tuesday this week. And then we also have a rework edition of cards, our little OTA, since we do have another OTA on Thursday this week. Dance and I have come up with 3 different cards that we would want a kind of a rework change for their OTA opposed to just like a statistical kind of change.
Yeah. I mean, they said that, or Glenn mentioned that for this OTA coming up this week, they're only gonna have a couple of days of data, so they're not really gonna be certain if they're gonna be nerfing cards. Most likely, this OTA will be focused on buffs. So for that logic, let's focus on buffs and do the fun kind of buffs, those reworks, and we'll see what we got. I think there's some interesting stuff here that's gonna be pretty fun. This isn't about the OTA, but I'm actually distracted, and I was gonna ask about this. Are you getting the Switch?
I'm not planning on getting the Switch 2, at least not just yet. I've more focused on 2 games in the moment, and the next game I'm gonna be playing won't be till like September. So we'll see. Borderlands 4 in September. But we'll see if I get the Switch 2 at any point within the long while. I probably will once my son's at the best ripe age, whatever, however you say it. We'll probably. That's what I see people say, like the ripe age, whatever. He will be learning how to play all like the Nintendo, Mario, Zelda, and maybe even Metroid, like platformer kind of games and stuff too.
I feel like I'm not going to talk to you about how little of those games I've truly played, but I'm really stoked about the Switch too.
The new Mario Kart game looks awesome.
I'm going to get that one. I know that much. I have a very basic knowledge of video games. I don't know. It's nothing interesting, but I'm stoked about that. I'm going to the like a Best Buy near me, and I'm going to just go the night of and hope I can do it. Because apparently in the US, there's like, starting at like midnight Eastern, they're going to start giving them out. I'm going to see if I can. I don't know. I missed every single pre-order.
A couple hours.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm going to, what is it? I'm going to be there for, basically as soon as I get off work. I might even just try to get off work early just to sit there for a bit. Grab my iPad, sit down, do absolutely nothing. It'll be fun. But not as fun as this. Yeah, of course. Not as fun as this OTA, though, as an actual conversation back to that. I just got distracted. I started yapping. Sorry. You know what I loved about the Electro change? I don't think it matters.
No.
But I love the fact they said, and I quote, the power will keep increasing. Or no, wait, no, I'm not saying it correctly. I need to pull this up here. I believe it was the power will keep increasing until morale improves or whatever, I think is what they said here, just as a reference. The power will continue to increase until morale improves. And I just thought that was a fun way to phrase it. Just like this, until this card gets used. Yeah.
But like,
I think
you
this
blink
card
it
was
out.
wrongly statted forever.
You blink it out, or you misread this. This never stays on the board really with the 4 power. Like,
I truly believe this card has been misstatted since it first came out. But it was the only energy ramp option we had at the time. Like, this was it was a 3-2 at one point, right? Like it was negative, but because that plus max energy. But then we got, we got our wave. We got into, Luna Snow, Hope Summers, everything else. Like this card, I don't think this card was power crept. I think the concept of energy generation was power crept.
Yeah, I think the text of this card went along with the text of another card that is just not the same anymore either, because it was Electro into Sandman. And
yeah, true.
Now that is no longer a thing, since it's not an ongoing Sandman anymore. Granted, Sandman's still a thing, yes, but
just not as bad.
Yeah, not as bad, and there's restrictions of this card. It would be different if War Machine also was a 5 cost opposed to a 4 cost, but I think that also kind of defeats some of the purpose of War Machine, unless one of these other OTA changes really makes it so War Machine needs to be a 5 cost here. But
we'll get to the other Lightning card that's now a 3 cost as well in a second. But yeah, I don't know. This one is just. I think this is a 3. This is gonna need to be a 3-5 and also potentially a 3-6. Like this is. I don't know why this is. I feel like this should have just been increased a bit ago, because you don't ever want to keep this on the board anyway. Make it so you actually have a reason to keep it on the board, and you don't hate it if it is going to be on the board.
Well, the craziest
it's literally gone from 3-2 to 3-3, 3-3, 4.
The craziest thing, if you wanted to potentially keep this on the board, it would be a 2 cost.
That's crazy.
But that's like. I don't think this needs to be a 2 cost. I don't think this is a card that has to be meta relevant because of all the other enablers and stuff we have. But I'm thinking, like, in order to get this card to actually stay on the board, opposed to you're using this to just get rid of other stuff. Whereas, like, Luna, you're keeping Luna's stats on the board. You're getting rid of the Ice Cube. Hope Summers, you're keeping Hope Summers' stats on the board because you're playing onto her. Wave, you're potentially keeping her stats on the board depending on what style ramp list you're playing with Wave. which is why she's
True.
the 3/5, and her limitation is, of course, your opponent also has their card set to 4 cost. But this just feels like the oddball out, which is why they keep on, adding the power to it, opposed to just a different type of change.
Yeah, the limitations between all of them, and also you have Corvus as well, right?
Yeah.
Like all of the so like Wiccan, all these other ones that give you that the energy cheating, there is an additional cost there.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, like even Wiccan was a 4/7.
Mm-hmm.
They had to buff him because they didn't think it'd be enough, and that just required you using the energy you already had. It was that bad. So like I agree. I wish I disagreed with you on the 2 cost bit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a very fair take. I don't know. I want to see this. Honestly, I think this should be a 3/6, and if it doesn't even land there, then it would probably have to go down.
Yeah, we would have to look at statistically what would happen if it was a 2 cost. So like that's why I'm not throwing out any numbers for 2 costs, because I think that's like literally last case scenario. You really want this card to be played. But the other changes we had in this OTA, we'll start going from lower cost to higher cost now, which we did have some impactful low cost changes with Sauron, which I do agree Sauron was kind of not like an issue, but the consistency Sauron had at a 2/2 being able to affect your hand and your deck was really solid. Now the Sauron change, which is also because of a card coming out this season, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is now a 1 cost 3 power card. On reveal, remove all the ongoing abilities from cards in your deck. It does no longer hit the cards in your hand. You can play Sauron out earlier is their idea here by being able to make him a 1 cost. But it makes some of the gameplay a little bit more interesting right now when you're looking at Sauron. Not saying the Sauron deck is bad by any means, because it's still like putting up numbers. But it does change kind of how you play the deck a little bit now with him being a 1 cost and affecting cards in your deck.
My take on the Sauron change is that I believe this Sauron change, like I actually think that it was maybe it was different. Maybe I'm wrong here. I think the stats on this were completely fine. And I think this was a Taskmaster change. Where because of an upcoming card, I'm just going to say the name Nightmare, we'll talk about it more later. Because of Nightmare being a thing and they were playing with it, testing it, they said this needs to get changed in order to work differently. And that's why this happened. And I think this is still too good of a card, and they will need to nerf this because of the, or not. I don't know if it's a 1/1. Maybe it goes to, honestly, it could be a 2/4. I think 2/2. I don't know. It's I as much as I like this card, I think it's cool. I also just think that once we have Nightmare as an option as well, I think this is going to be a very difficult.
Oh, I see.
It's going to be difficult to bounce stuff.
Making it a 2 cost now with its current ability, since then you can't do that. Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying there. Because at first I was like, make it a 2 cost from this, and I was like, no, with its current text, making it a 2 cost. If Nightmare
4 power,
is able to do what he does, that's actually that makes sense. And I think you said it perfectly. I think it's like what was going to happen with Move Bounce, and people were already running that with Taskmaster, with the Human Torch. Like, they're changing that aspect. That's why they increased the cost of Taskmaster. And, of course, when we get to talking about Nightmare, which that'll be an interesting conversation, seeing how that plays into this, which they kind of do really go hand in hand. And if you look at the dev video, that's how they used Nightmare as well. This was one of the main changes, which actually kind of is pretty impactful, especially if Nightmare does fall flat. This is a huge change to that style of deck.
The reason I still think that it's going to be too good is because the deck already is solid with this change. And part of the reason is actually because it counters another card that we saw changed. But this card got, because of this change, this buff that they've done, or not the buff they're doing by releasing Nightmare, and the deck is still good. Once Nightmare comes out, I think the deck's going to be extremely powerful, and we'll have to deal with something else.
All right, so the next change we also had is Strange Supreme got a little slap on the wrist, going from a 2/2 to a 2/1. So, like...
Yeah, I think this was the one that we had talked about. We were like, yeah, this is probably happening. It is what it is. I don't mind these changes. There's something different, and when we get to I want to talk about the next 2 that were on the smaller side. There's one, actually. Can we skip ahead to Thanos real quick? The one that actually happened to Thanos?
Yeah.
because I want to talk about this whole like section here, because the time stone no longer gives Thanos a draw. I hate from a visual design perspective the fact that cost is on its own level, like its own line, but that's my own thing. There was those two were like the biggest thing, and then also Sam Wilson's shield lost its point of power. Sam continuing. This is probably one of the better places that Sam will exist at, honestly, and I think this is probably going to be fair. I have seen less Thanos anecdotally. But from and I know you definitely have more of a pulse on like the competitive meta and such. How much did this actually do?
It didn't honestly do, I think, too much to Thanos itself. The consistency went down slightly because it's one less draw with Time Stone, and the Sam Wilson change, it's a less point of power on the board. But overall, like when it comes to Thanos is still really good. It's just with this OTA, people are trying newer things, and like the main thing people are playing right now is Cerebro, since Cerebro went to +3 and then had increased cost. A lot of people are playing this, coinciding with the change to Storm as well, going to a 3/2. So, like, there's that iteration of Cerebro. People are playing the 3/2 Cerebro. I know we're jumping around here, but also, like, this is back. Yes, it doesn't work with Legion, that same exact turn kind of thing, but people are still doing the War Machine Legion stuff, which is now back.
It's just not as good anymore, I think. It's still good, but it's just not as, like, immediately. So, my take, by the way, on the Cerebro/Storm change was just, I think that if they had just changed Storm, I think Cerebro would have come back.
Yeah.
Because the best version of Cerebro, I mean, this is a great, like, this is insane. I think the best version of Cerebro has been and will be the shutdown versions, because you can use Echo, Goose, and Storm as like boom, 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 get locked. And the fact that they brought Storm back into that package really mattered a lot there, because locations, and also location variance just sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one that I'm like, I'm gonna wait to see how this one goes. I'm very happy Storm at least is back. I think that one's a good one, even if it's annoying potentially with that with the War Machine and Legion stuff. I still like that part at least a lot more.
And then a couple other changes. We had Toxie Doxie got 2 extra points of power, but this
still bad.
still not great. Makari losing a point of power actually did surprise me. I wasn't thinking Makari would go down to a 3/3.
I was surprised as well. But I mean, they said definitively that like this is just the highest this is apparently one of the highest performing cards in these Silver Surfer decks. With and they said a win rate on par with Silver Surfer,
which is wild.
So as much as I'm like, why would you hit this card if that's the stats that they're seeing in the back end? I'm not gonna argue with that. That's insane.
Yeah. That one. Then also Hercules, now only moving your cards, is better quality of life change for Hercules. But
I didn't know this card was in the game. This is a nothing burger still. I'd be surprised if it was good.
Kahori just got her text updated with the OTA. That was the main thing for her.
Yeah, I didn't even realize the word other wasn't on there. That was just a bug, honestly.
And then I like the Annihilus change. I like the Annihilus going to a 5/8 from 5/7. He's been updated the past couple months from 5/6 to 5/7, now at 5/8. I don't hate it.
The problem was White Widow for a lot of that, as well as Kate Bishop's month being a thing.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff I'm really not minding. Hazmat took me by surprise.
Yes. So I think this is actually, we're talking about all the other changes having like big impact. I think this is also kind of a big impact change when it comes to what you're trying to do with Affliction, like later turn wise. Yes, this still can be pulled by Malekith, but like you can't do too much all the time now. Like this is something you kind of either need to play out maybe a little bit earlier. I've been playing Toxic Surfer, and this feels great with Toxic Surfer because it's a 3-cost card.
That was already a thing beforehand.
Yeah.
That was like, it was Toxic Surfer used to be a thing, and then they've done this, which is interesting to bring it back. And they also hit the Makari that probably would have fit into that package as well. Very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. Are the stats worse with her at 3 cost than at 2 cost right now, or?
What is that? I don't have the stats pre. We don't have these card stats pre nerf. But this has gone from, I'm pretty sure it was in B or like B tier or something like that. This has just gone to a C tier. Very much middling, which is very interesting. And I wonder, I mean, the fact that this is such a strange card because at one time it sucked completely at 2/2.
Yeah.
But now we have so many things that actually get enabled based off of this. With Luke Cage just continuing to be a great card. Ajax is a new card. Evolved Abomination. I'm very interested to see how this is going to go in the long term. This is the one out of every single one of them that I understand the least still. Yeah. And I'm really, really excited by. Because apparently this deck was like one of the best ones out there. Just the toxic deck in general, especially in against like Thanos.
Yeah, very good into Thanos. And I think it was because Diamondback has that extra value that we've been talking about the past couple weeks on the app too. Is just like you can swing lanes with a Hazmat Diamondback because that is essentially up to 15 points of power, including Diamondback's power and the power afflicted to your opponents, which is very interesting. But a lot of just pretty interesting changes with the OTA. It's been a week, of course, since then. We have another OTA on Thursday. But what we have before even the OTA on Thursday
so much
is we have a brand new season. But we got to talk about this past season before we jump straight into the new season. Even though our topic right now is the new season, we got to talk about our ratings for the cards that have come out this season, Dance. And so, how do you think we did?
I honestly think that we pretty much nailed it.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing that is gonna, what is it? I feel like we just really nailed. Every single one of our opinions, I feel like have stood pretty well. Right now, if you had to give me your top, what are the top three? Right, we had 6 cards released this season. I'm gonna go in the order they released. Esme, Surge, Prodigy, Elixir, Zorn. Oh no, sorry, 5. So we at one point, because Cobra was actually data mined in the album for Rian Gonzalez, we thought Cobra was going to be coming out. We're going to talk about him again for this upcoming bit. We've talked about him a couple of times in the past because he is potentially also data mined to be in this next one. So who knows? We'll just keep talking about him, and we'll be wrong again if we need to. Dum Dum and Cobra just continually being snuffed over here. But out of the 5, just give me your top. Just what's the number one still as time has went on?
I think we can all agree Surge is the number 1 card.
Surge is just the best card of this month. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to put Esme at 2. I really enjoy Esme a lot, and I know a lot of people have been like in either on stream or in like comments be like, I always get the worst drops for Esme. I normally get some of the better drops for Esme, so that's why I like Esme.
I've seen so many people say that they just get really bad drops with Esme. As someone who has played too much Among Us, that is the biggest self-report I've ever seen. Means they don't know how to build Esme decks. You need to be getting value with these cards. And they're like, man, I'm not getting any value. I've put, 2 cards in my entire deck that I want to hit Esme with, and I'm not getting either of them. Why would this happen? How could this happen to me? I'll tell you how this happened. You gotta get good.
And then I think Prodigy at 3, and then I'm thinking Zorn 4, Elixir 5.
Yeah. So your original one, you still had Surge at the top. You had, and then it was Prodigy, Esme, and then Elixir, Zorn.
Okay.
I think my list has stayed the same throughout the whole month. I actually think Prodigy is more fun than Surge. because I kind of just think Surge is I think Surge is a really good card, but I think Prodigy, I like it when the card's a little bit worse. So I do straight up. I don't like it if the card is too good. It's I don't know. But Surge and then Prodigy, Esme, Zorn, Elixir for myself. We'll be seeing if that changes as potentially another card that is coming out this month. But honestly, like this last season kind of felt like a nothing burger for the most part. Like nothing really was exciting against Surge withstanding. Surge is literally just the outlier when I'm saying this stuff, right? Like I just feel like a lot of this past season was kind of like, in terms of the cards that we actually got. I'm really excited, really interested in this upcoming season because every single card I think seems really fun, really interesting. And even the worst one is going to be one of the ones that is actually coming out today, in my personal opinion. But I really think it's still a good card. I'm excited by this stuff.
Yeah, I think it is very interesting to note, as we do have a little spoiler here. on screen because I hit the wrong thing. But it is very interesting to note when it comes to the cards last season too. Like they had new things, but they didn't feel like brand new. Whereas having this magic, arcana, spell, skills is a newer thing that we had only really seen with Agamotto, and getting that is just a nice little, breath of fresh air that feels different. Not to mention having some of the cooler cards as the season pass card. Not saying Esme is not like a cool card, but like Merlin, comparing, if we are going to compare season pass cards, Merlin's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Merlin is going to be fun. So if y'all don't know what Merlin does, he is a 2-cost 3-power card that has this text: at the start of each turn, add an incantation to your hand. And incantation are, there are one of 3 different incantations. All of them are skills. All of them cost 1 energy. Which one do you want to talk about first?
So first one we're going to talk about is going to be Omniversal Presence, which is an on reveal 1 cost 0 power because it's a skill. Replace this location.
So no power.
So no power. Also can't be hit by Gwenpool or turned off by Eliath. On reveal, replace this location with a new one and give Merlin +2 power.
So you remember when Scarlet Witch was good?
Yeah. I do.
What was that again?
You remember how good Reality Stone is? Like, literally.
This is just Reality Stone, but this is just, it's even better. It just buffs up Merlin, which is already a really, this already does a lot here, right? Mm-hmm. It buffs him up, and it changes that location. I will say, I think this one's fun. It's the least exciting out of the 3 to me. Once in future, I'm coping hard. I want M'Baku to be meta.
Okay, I see the vision here too. Because this is once in future, like Dan said, another 1 cost skill. On reveal, shuffle your lowest powered card here into your deck to get +2 energy next turn.
I get it. I'm coping. But I really want to be able to do some M'Baku stuff with this. I highly, highly, highly doubt that I will, but I'm coping. Right now, it's a medically induced amount of copium right now, and I'm hoping it's going to be fun.
Which, this card is really crazy because it's also, an anti-clog, anti-junk card, too. So, if you don't get your Annihilus and stuff, you throw this down on top of the Void, get the Void out of your freaking deck, out of your board. You also get the extra energy on the next turn, so you'll have 8 energy potentially on turn 6 there. There's so many different ways. You could also do this just with Sentry and this on the same turn. It's so many different possibilities.
Dude, Sentry Void?
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. This card, actually, this is my take will be, if you would like to do something interesting and to potentially be able to climb quickly, my guess for the best, this is a crazy idea, but I want to say it. My idea for the best deck to climb with for this upcoming season is going to be Darkhawk.
Really?
Thanos is already still good. Once in future is going to be everyone and their mom's going to be playing Merlin because Merlin has so many different toys. He's going to be a blast. I would be surprised if we see a lot of Morgana, as well as it already is just a solid deck. And I think we're going to be able to see some, it's just good already. So why would it not be even better? I think when you have even more enablers with this.
I mean, you saying playing this with Darkhawk?
No, because people are going to be playing it. You make it so they can't play this card, or else you get power.
Oh, because the thing is, this will put a card back into your deck, and then you draw. I guess which increases it by 1. And then you'll draw another card.
Yeah, so it's basically like your opponent plays a Korg on themselves.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Darkhawk was what I used to climb to Infinite last season, and it was super easy. But the problem with this, I will say though, is the fact that yes, it costs 1 to play this, and you get +2 energy next turn. So it's a spending 1 to get 2 energy, as well as losing power. Mm-hmm. Potentially losing power and shuffling your deck again, because it is going to offset what card you would have drawn as your top deck the next turn.
Yeah, this one is going to be very interesting, but also I will say Polymorph is fun.
Which Polymorph, it says right here, it is another 1 cost on reveal. Transform your lowest powered card here into one that costs 2 more. As we saw in the dev video, it's actually cost 1 more, not cost 2 more. It's more like Cersei opposed to a 1 cost that does even more than kind of what Cersei does in a sense.
Yeah, that would be kind of honestly. It's a fair change. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, this is like all of these skills being 1 cost opposed to like with Agamotto, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 cost makes this really great. And you also, they don't start in your deck, so you don't have to draw them. They are all added to your hand each turn. So it really just depends on when you play Merlin, which I believe it doesn't trigger on turn 2. If you play Merlin turn 2, it would be turn 3, 4, and 5.
Yes.
So you'll still have the opportunity there. So it's going to be managing your hand space when it comes to that itself. But this card's shaping up to be kind of crazy.
Shaping up because they're changing the shape with polymorph.
Yep.
I don't know if that was a stretch, intentional or not, but yeah, okay, cool, perfect, great job. No, I think this is Merlin's gonna be awesome. I think Merlin's gonna be a really fun addition to Marvel Snap. Merlin feels like, as much as Agamotto was a really cool way to introduce skills into the game, Merlin feels like one of the most. I'm really excited by the way he's gonna be not implying. What am I trying to say? Utilizing skills. I feel like it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be very I'm excited. As I freeze in a really weird position there. But anyway.
No, I think he's going to be very exciting. But we also have today, we do have Morgan Le Fay also coming out, which is going to be an on reveal. Return all of your discarded and destroyed cards to hand with +3 power.
And the visual on screen is incorrect. It's actually a 4 cost, 7 power card, according to the dev video. I want this card to be good. Will it?
I think there's going to be some builds for her that will work well. It's just this situation. The decks you're going to have to build to get value from Morgan Le Fay. You need to be able to discard them 1 turn and then genuinely be able to play them out. So, like, if you're just adding them back to your hand, yes, you can get collector value. But I'm thinking if you're going to be discarding a whole lot of cards, you want to be able to play them out to be able to get that value from that extra 3 power. And I think that's where this card can potentially fall short, is this being a 4 cost itself too. You have 2 more turns at the end of the game to be able to play said cards out. And if you don't have to wait to play these cards out, they kind of just sit in your hand. I've been thinking of this card as another great enabler for like a Corvus Glaive. In case you potentially hit your Hela, you can get Morgana to get your Hela back in your hand. But at the same time, if you do get your Hela back in your hand, this revives all of your discarded cards. So then your next turn, you need to focus on discarding cards again to be able to get hella value. So it's going to be interesting to see what people build with this. There's a Bullseye kind of thing you could do with this. You could go MODOK into Morgan Le Fay, into Bullseye, but at the same time, you might be reviving your 2-cost Swarm instead of your 0-cost Swarms. So like there's a couple different ways where like the discard could be clunky, which is why I'm also thinking if you go to more of the destroy side of things, how can you get the most value with destroy? Are you destroying cheaper stuff in order to potentially destroy them again and pump up a null, or just to have a larger variety of cards to be able to throw down that your opponent has to keep track of? Because once your graveyard is empty and back into your hand, your opponent has to remember what all you have destroyed or discarded.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. No, I agree with you though. I'm really stoked for this card. But I don't see a world where discard feels like a good home for this, but also destroy feels like an awkward home a lot of times as well. So these two in particular, like this one in particular, I think is the worst one. But again, the stat here is incorrect. It's a 7 powered card still.
Yep.
So even if it feels a little bit awkward, that's still really good. So I'm hoping I'm incorrect here. But also, I get that the thing is supposed to be the baseline. But why in the hell do we get this awesome ability, this cool stuff, and it's higher than normal stats? I don't know. That shouldn't be a thing. This should not be. That shouldn't be a thing. I don't get that logic in the slightest.
You don't like the baseline of being a 4/7 and the +3? Is that what it is, or?
No, I'm mainly upset that Thing is being so slept on. I know
the Thing.
The Thing. Sorry. Whenever anyone says The Thing, I always flash back to when he was added to Marvel Rivals, and I just saw it everywhere in my timeline. Like, here's the thing, here's the thing, here's the thing, and I have PTSD whenever I say that. But now, anyway, it's just I don't get how the Thing can just. That's where I'm upset with this card as well. Like, it just, I don't know. That just. I disagree with the logic that's the baseline. Like, that's the floor. That's the worst the card can be. I just don't think that's a good place to exist at. I don't know. If you really want that to be a thing, then make more of them worse. Honestly, that just sucks.
I think that's fair. But jumping ahead real quick, we're gonna look at the decks that Dance and I did brew for Merlin and for Morgan Le Fay. The first one we are going to look at over here is going to be Dance is Mil Le Fay, which is going to be the first one as I fixed it because it was not zoomed in the right way.
I always think of her as Morgana because there was this old show from the BBC called Merlin, and I think she was Morgana in that show. So I continually read Morgan Le Fay and then think of it as Morgana instead. I don't have a reason why, but I just believe that.
I think of it too because I think of like League of Legends. She also has like purple magic, and like Morgan Le Fay has kind of looks like purple magic.
I believe it. Anyway, they're wrong here with Morgan Le Fay. But I was trying to feel like, where do you actually, like, how can this fit? Like, where does this need to fit inside of your curve? And this is one of those smaller places that I'm like, this could potentially work here with your Hood, your Venom being able to get the value back from those cards. Killmonger cleaning up your board. You can even use that to get a, to get rid of the Hood as well as a demon. Bring back a 1/9 demon. Not to mention miserying your good cards. Like, I thought this. I have no idea how possible it is, but imagine you've played go Hood, Cable, Venom, Misery, Morgan Le Fay.
Yeah, you get all those cards back into your hand too. Also, like, that's what at least two destroys there.
Yeah,
and then you have the death value. Like, no, I think that when it comes to the destroy aspect of this, I think the good shout also is just the Killmonger into destroying your demons to get a 1/9 demon, which is pretty much like Victoria hand things. Of course, you do have to play them out again. But if you can destroy your cards like not necessarily the right way, but if you can destroy enough cards, kind of banking off like what you're saying here, because we kind of had a similar idea. If you destroy enough cards, you can get your death out earlier. You then Venom your death, which in both lists we have Venom, and then you Morgan Le Fay on 5, and you get a 15 power free card to play.
I love it. It's going to be a lot of... I'll give you a spicy take about both of these. I believe that this is going to be a very good deck for day one if you want to mess with Morgan Le Fay. I'm going to say both of us missed the mark in terms of what it's going to look like in a month.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be... So, like, the difference is cards coming out are going to affect a lot of stuff.
Cards coming out as well, but, like, this card, I think, is going to have such an intricacy behind the correct way to use it that I... Like, this... No shade meant to either one of us here. I just think that this is going to be a card that you can really dive deep into, and there's going to be a lot of specific random stuff that is going to get changed as time goes on, and we're going to be like, oh, man, that is well, or just whatever. Right? There was a version of time where I was like, what if you can do this crazy thing where, like, you you can Killmonger all your 1-drops, then bring them back into your hand with your Morgan Le Fay, and also have activated a Black Swan, and then do some Hit Monkey stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of really weird stuff that I don't understand fully, but as people get their hands on it and more time spent on Morgan Le Fay, I think that we're going to be able to see a lot of really fun stuff occur with her, and really it's going to open a lot of different ways. But I think Merlin, I think we again have kind of similar stuff here. Merlin's going to be a card that just goes into a lot of places as well.
Yeah, no, I think Merlin's going to be very flexible the way his abilities work, and like being able to have that into like different matchups and stuff too, of course, depending on where you draw him. Going back off what you're saying, that like Hitmonkey Token Destroy could be very interesting with the Shanna value, with the Black Swan, also being able to throw Death out to get the other power onto another lane. There's a bunch of different ways you can mess around that, but this is going to be Dance's Merlin list that he's going to be starting off with, which is some Clog, Strange Supreme.
I mean, you gotta have two. I didn't want to leave Merlin as the only magic user here, so Strange Supreme and him can do some fun stuff. That's why it's called Magic, etc. The etc. is all the rocks and junk that you throw on the board. But I mean, there's a lot of really interesting things here, and also the biggest thing I think I may have made a mistake here with is you may want to toss, and actually I think I'm going to make this change immediately now that I've said it. Daredevil for Luke Cage. Because of eating because of eating potentially an acid arrow that doesn't go your way and or the void. I think that's the only thing I would say otherwise, but I like the ideas here because also a lot of the spells that Merlin has, at least 2 out of 3 of them, which you're going to get a random one every single time. It's not guaranteed one after another after another. It's just random 2. I believe so, actually. We don't have a confirmation on that, do we?
Yeah, we don't know if there's an actual order or if it is just
like Nico.
Random. Yeah.
That's interesting. I actually didn't think about that. That's all right. Well, the future issues, whatever. But Merlin has at least one of them, again, shuffles in a card that you didn't want to be on the board, or it also gives you another one that just turns into a better card. So 2 of those things really assist in that Clog package. So I like it here.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Is like having that as another route if you don't have your Annihilus, and then also just being able to offset locations. You have the tech there. You being able to add the cards back into your deck to be able to get extra energy into the next turn. Yeah, there's so many different lines there. And then I went with something. So I've been actually playing this. I played this a little bit yesterday. I was messing around with it, and you're gonna be like, why do you have Galactus in this? So Galactus is not like a primary line in here. This is an alternate line. If you can get the Clog perfect, you have Galactus and you just win the game because your opponent just cannot match your power. You also have, Agamotto in this, another magic user, and you have Nicholas Scratch with Merlin as well, which Nicholas Scratch we're going to be talking about here in a little bit. That also does come out today as well. Gets power whenever spells are used. So Merlin has 3 spells. Agamotto has 4 spells. You can potentially use Quinjet to go with your Agamotto spells. It won't really do anything with your Merlin spells because they're going to cost 1. It can't be anything less than 1. Works with Valentina. You also have your Sentry and Nihilus package like Dan was saying. And then you have Cannonball top end. So you have some Clog, you King Eitri to be able to get some of your cards back as well. But Surprise Galactus is not something you're expecting in this list at all. So that's why we have Galactus in here kind of as one of those factors. Not a card you have to have necessarily in this list. You could add more tech potentially to kind of offset that. But you have other ways to get energy out, whether it is with Merlin or whether it is with Agamotto. Bolts of, Balthak for Agamotto. And then you also have... it's the once in future for Merlin to be able to have potential value there too. So like if you do play that, you have 8 energy going into the final turn. So you could go Sentry Viper. There's like a bunch of just different ways you can play around it here, but you're using Agamotto, which I think is a card that people have started to start using more and more. But the value you can get with the extra energy, Winds of Watum is still really solid. Even being able to thin out your deck with Temporal to be able to either draw Agamotto or just give him that extra power. Like there's a bunch of different ways. Even icons like Images goes crazy too with some of these cards. So a bunch of different shouts, and it'll be interesting to see how it works. It's kind of a Clog, kind of a good stats kind of value list over here.
I really think we're gonna see Merlin fit into Clog. A lot because again I feel like 2 of those 3 really work with the Clog package. So I think stuff like this where you can utilize those the Clog cards are gonna matter a lot. And also a different thing that you did here that I want to point out as well is King Eitri, because I think activatable cards are another good shout for what Merlin can work with. Because again, the ones that are gonna either change or shuffle back in cards from into your deck. Cards like King Eitri are ones that you're like, okay, cool. You use it and then you don't need it anymore. So one-off effects like that are really fun, really interesting, and that's one I'd be like, oh, okay, I like that shout very specifically in this one as well. I'm not going to comment on Galactus.
Yeah, Dance was like, Tucker, why do you have Galactus in this list? And I'm telling you guys right now, I was playing this, granted it was in Conquest, but the Galactus people are not expecting in a style list like this because like people aren't playing Toxic Clog Galactus like they were originally when Annihilus came out. But it can really be cheeky and steal you some games, which like in Snap, You're looking to do that, and your opponent snaps you because they're like, well, I can win these other lanes, and it's like, well, can you actually win these other lanes when I have priority here?
It's going to be interesting, I think, to say the least. We'll see. I will be interested if it really works, but I do think it is fun.
Because Merlin's spell also too, like instead of having a wave, like you have the Merlin to be able to swap one of your other cards out to get 2 energy, and maybe you play your Galactus out on, play him out on turn 4 instead of playing him out with your opponent. I mean, instead of waving, and your opponent also has a card they can play out on turn 4 with the extra energy. You now have that with Galactus, which makes some interesting lines. But nonetheless, guys, we have even more cards to talk about this season.
I don't know if we're gonna be like, we have so many things. We may not be. We have our reworks. There's a chance we may not get them today. I'm just gonna say that we have a lot of stuff, and we also have other things we need to do in the background, and I don't know if we're gonna be able to get everything. Anyway, all right, let's talk about these cards because there's a lot of really fun stuff here. Going straight to Series 4 with Nicholas Scratch, as he is a 1 cost 2 power card. This is data mine. We don't actually have the stats on Nicholas Scratch or the next one, I believe, technically. So these are data mine stats subject to change. Obviously, we've already seen some of this data mine stuff is incorrect. But with Nicholas Scratch, he is data mined at a 1 cost 2 power who says, after you play a skill, +1 power. And skills, again, are what Agamotto generates, are what Merlin generates, what a couple other cards we'll be seeing throughout today generate. And this power is similar to Collector, to, as we've seen recently, Batroc. This card is fun, I think.
At a Series 4 card, too, like, it works really well, of course, with these Series 5 cards. But yeah. I think this will be a very nice scaler, especially with Merlin, with his incantations, his spells, his skills being as cheap as there are. Really getting this to 1/5. 1/5 is good stats, like already good stats, and like your drawback is you have to play skills, which like if you're playing a deck with Nicholas Scratch,
guess what? You're already kind of have them built in. Like you're like, okay, I'll play these cards that you already give me here. Okay, sure. I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
I really like the idea of Nicholas Scratch stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be pretty solid. And then we also have another Series 4 card, which is going to be Dance's favorite card of the season. It's going to be Jennifer Kale, which is an activate. Next turn, you get +1 energy. Woo.
I think this is going to be, I mean, we'll see. I'm interested in this. This is just Psylocke, but what if you got to delay it?
This, to me, is Merlin bait. So, like, what you do is you activate, like you said, we're talking about with King Eitri. You activate this to get the extra energy, and then you swap this card out.
Potentially, yeah. I'm excited. This is gonna be. This one maybe I'm actually not as super like stoked on, but at the same time I'm like, okay. But we've hit all 4. These are all 4 cards that are coming out today.
Yep.
And one thing I want to really shout here is that I don't believe we're going to be able to see people just because whenever a new card comes out, there's the conversation like, okay, this is going to be, Mobius is going to be everywhere because this card does like cost reduction or whatever. With 4 different cards all coming out on the same day.
Yep.
This is the most excited for an Infinite Climb I think I've been in a while. Because
diversity.
The variety we're going to get. Yeah, the diversity. It's just 4 cards, right? We're probably going to be seeing a lot of Merlin. I think Merlin's going to be the #1 thing and a lot of Clog. But still, we're also thinking we're going to see a lot of Destroy potentially, or just enough Destroy. I think with Morgan Le Fay that I'm like, it might bout. Like, I think there's a lot of options into this push, this start of this season. I'm stoked.
Which, like, what you're saying too is like, if there's a lot of Clog, anyways, there's going to be more Destroy. But now you also have another card that can kind of help with that, in a sense, with Morgan Le Fay. Moving on to our next card, we do have the Ancient One, which is in a 3-cost, 5-power card. On reveal, add Tau Mandala to your hand, which is going to be a card that is created, so it can work with Quinjet, which is a 3-cost, 0-power card, or 3-cost, 0 skill, of course. On reveal, copy the text of one of your ongoing cards here onto your other characters here.
So there are 2 places that I really want to use her. And we'll talk, and I think we're going to talk about more of it next weekend because we're kind of just brushing through all of them here. Because again, 10 cards in one day. Anyway, or not in one season, potentially. But like, this is going to be fun. Cerebro 5 and Victoria Hand are where I want to use this stuff.
Cerebral 5, Victoria Hand. I think those are good shouts. Even like Surfer potentially could be interesting here with like a Captain Carter.
Sure. Oh my gosh, Captain Carter's another fun one. Yeah.
Thanos is another one I thought of too. This could be a good Thanos ongoing card, potentially.
I think this is a great one for Moonstone in particular. This card and Moonstone, I think, are going to be two that actually really like to work together because you want a lot of cheap cards there, right? And you're probably putting them on some cards. You don't care about some cheap ones. So then you get all these abilities on some cheap cards. Then you throw Moonstone down, who doubles every single one of those. Like, imagine this plus like Mr. Fantastic.
That I think is the Mr. Fantastic shout could be interesting. Affliction.
Oh God, that's horrible. I love it.
Because you can play out your Zabu and some of your earlier cost cards, and then maybe you have a Man-Thing, or you have a Diamondback, or you have like an Ajax, and then you play this out on top of one of those to be able to copy that ongoing in that lane. You can play your Hazmat into this and get just.
Oh, man. You know what the best part about this card actually is though? This in particular, it doesn't work with Sam Wilson.
There you go. There you go. Dance. We're dancing on Sam Wilson's grave a little too early, maybe.
Listen, I do like Sam Wilson, but this is just like, I feel like every single card half the time we're like, oh, it works for Sam Wilson. Strange Supreme works for Sam Wilson. Whatever. This one, it just explicitly does not work with Sam Wilson.
Yeah, no.
Unless you're really about to move all the cards in that lane to Sam Wilson's location, someone's gonna do that. Be like, oh, I used it with Sam Wilson. It was great. I'm like, screw you. Fine.
Yeah, I can move cards, whatever. But then the next card we have, Dance, which is actually Nightmare, but is a 3-1, which is what we saw in the dev video. It hasn't been updated on Snap.fan. But this is an on reveal. Replace the text of each card in your hand with the text of a random card of the same cost.
Nightmare is to Bast what Agent Venom is to Sauron.
Yeah. And
that's what they have here.
This card is scary because think of like what you don't like about Erishim, or pretty much, and it's like, what cards do they have in their hand that can counter what I'm doing? What are they snapping? And after playing Nightmare, you have to probably snap into Nightmare opposed to playing Nightmare and then snapping if you're looking for your cube equity. Because that unknown factor is like, why are they staying in this game? Do they have this? Do they have that? What cards do they have in their hand? So like that adds a different level to like the greedy snaps or the bluff snaps when it comes to this card itself. But I think this card is going to be very fun as a user. It'll be very rough at some instances to play against because you have to think about, well, what card do they have here that can counter what I'm trying to do? And like thinking about that logic, what cost, what are they actually playing? And that's going to be like learning the Nightmare decks in order to potentially get that value there. But of course, Sauron, you have the Red Skull value, Typhoid Mary, you have Starbrand, you have...
How excited are you to get Galactus by Infinite?
Yeah, that's going to be freaking crazy. Or Eliath Infinite. Like that too is also pretty rough. Zola Infinite. Like there's a lot of, but like think about Hulkling too. Hulkling does have bad hits. So your Infinite could turn into Taskmaster, but you're able to play out your Infinite whenever, opposed to having to float a turn or having to War Machine it. So like this card is going to be very interesting for especially the bluff snapping, and there's going to be some really crazy clips that people hit with this card.
So the card that I actually am most interested to mess with Nightmare that is, in particular, I'm going to actually say Dormammu, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, because Dormammu is a 7-cost card for 1, and for 2, I want to change a skillet to have an ongoing ability and see what happens.
You said a skill?
Yeah, right? It replaces the text of cards, not characters.
That's true.
So...
Really.
I want an ongoing skill. I 100% believe that what's going to happen is it will fully resolve being on the board and then disappear. But I want to do it just to do it. That's that's all.
Dan's supposed to change it. Makes this text on the card change because of his testing, because it should,
exactly.
It should be character, but
yes,
they said card itself. So that's actually really funny.
Exactly. See, I'm cooking.
Then of course the next card we have.
The kitchen's on fire. Please
The
get me
kitchen
out.
is on fire. I'm like, what is happening? We're assuming here. With
This is. Can we? I'm actually gonna ask who we wait on this one, and I know the other one that's gonna be with this.
Okay.
I want to talk about the confirmed cards first, and we can go into these, which are speculative even more so.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Hey, it's called anticipation. Just wait.
So then the next official card we know that is coming because this swapped with the last card that is releasing. I thought this was gonna be the last card of the season, but it's not. We have Dormammu, which is a 7-cost, 10-power card. Game start ability: begin a summoning ritual and add step 1 to your hand.
So the reason I also want this to be a thing, with Nightmare, is because 50% chance that Dormammu turns into Scar.
Yeah, because it's either Airshim or Scar.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good alternate route because there is the summoning spell, which we'll read into, which you just puts him onto the board himself. But
this is only step 1. There's actually 3 different skills.
Yes. So this is step 1. Like I was jumping ahead. I'm just jumping.
Got it. Give us all these skills.
Okay,
Give us how you. Bring
so we have on reveal a 0/0 summoning ritual. Merge your highest powered destroyed card with Dormammu to continue. So you have to have cards in your graveyard, and then the highest powered of the destroyed cards is what gets added to Dormammu's power. Kind of like Null in a sense, but Null is, of course, concurrent to what has been destroyed entirely in the entire game. And then you get automatically the next summoning ritual, which is going to be a 1-cost summoning ritual, which is an unreveal. Dormammu steals 1 power from each card here, which includes your side of the board and your opponent's side of the board. Kind of like a Laufey. Or just like a Laufey.
This one is the most interesting for me of the skills, because this technically has no requirements other than you spending one energy for it. The other one requires you to have a destroyed card. This one just requires you to spend 1 energy. You get the bonus of stealing power from potentially your opponent's cards or even your own. And then the next one requires what does it require?
This is a 3-cost. On reveal, destroy 2 of your characters here to summon Dormammu, which then puts him onto the board where you destroyed your cards.
Yep. So similarly, though, if you don't destroy 2, akin to, I'm guessing here, but it would make sense, akin to if you use Corvus Glaive and you don't discard 2 cards, don't get +1 max energy. So if you don't destroy 2 of your characters here, probably not getting Dormammu.
Unfortunately, Dormammu won't be on the board there. Yeah.
Sorry, you may try to bargain with him there. That's not going to work out in your favor.
No. So like this is one of the first cards where we've had it comes poof just straight onto the board after you've done 3 steps. Of course, you work for it, but they're not super expensive rituals. Yeah.
It's not super expensive. Again, the biggest thing that it requires is for you to have a card destroyed and then to have 2 cards that you want to destroy.
Yep.
That's all this really requires, but it does require you to use multiple turns to set up for the first step as well as to play all of the other steps. Then you get a free Dormammu, which he is a 7-cost card. He's actually in your deck. You can play him. Or you can do the full ritual and get him for free. Ish. You know what I mean? Free has an asterisk there. It always does. This is going to be Dormammu's really fun, really interesting. And there's gonna be legitimate deck building, but all I can do is think about what happens if I get a Cosmo summoning ritual from this. Is Dormammu Dormammu wouldn't get summoned, right? And I just lose the summoning ritual. I shouldn't be thinking about this, but it's just where my brain's going.
Yeah, no, I think this card's gonna be very interesting, very fun. I think you could still kind of play this in like a regular old school destroy package, but I think you have to kind of fidget around with cards that don't normally go into your destroy pile. So like kind of looking at that, like, are you wanting just to destroy a Nico? Like, I wonder like what you're going to be building. Like, you also are going to get death value. You're going to get null value. You're going to be able to get this card potentially on the board and then drop a null. Like, there's going to be just really interesting ways to like mess around with this card, which I think will be really nice. But this isn't the last card of the season. The last card of the season is going to be Clea, however you say it. Of course, this is how it reads. What we saw like in the dev video. I think she still is a 1/1 in the dev video.
I think it was a 1/2
or a 1/2. Okay. Which
Might be
has
correct.
just the
I'll pull it up.
which has just a flat text. When this permanently gains power, add flames of flatine or faltine to your hand, if in hand or in play. So wherever she gains power, it adds the flames of faltine in your, but not in your deck. It has to be in hand or in play to be able to get that. And the flames of faltine or on reveal afflict an enemy card here with -2 power.
Yeah, this is gonna be a very interesting one. I already kind of like hand buff. This is the first card I think I've really seen that's like just this is a hand buff card pretty much in a hot second, and so I'm very excited to see if this is gonna work. I will just say, hey, how about that Marvel Boy value?
Exactly, and I think that's when you told me this, I was like, yo, Marvel Boy Affliction is something that also could very well happen. I know it's crazy, right? But like Marvel Boy Affliction. What does
the rest of that deck look like though?
So like it's gonna have Silver Sable, it's gonna have maybe not Marvel Affliction, but like Zoo. You're gonna have some Zoo and Affliction, so you're gonna have a way to combat like what your opponent is like playing while being able to throw all these spells and stuff down. So you're gonna have Nicholas Spark on the board, you're gonna have your Marvel Boy on the board, and you're gonna have Clea. So Nicholas Spark and Clea are going to scale like really well.
So for one, yes, it is a 1/2 for certain. Also, the flames, if we can go back to those real quick, those actually give -3.
-3, and they're 1 cost. Yes, they're skills, so they're not going to stay on level permanently, but you're playing, like, you can repeatedly play this. You have Nicholas Spark in one lane, you have Clea in the other, and then you're probably running, like, your Copium running Kyera to make sure your Nicholas Spark and your Clea can't get destroyed. But this will be really, really interesting to see how this works. I mean, it's Zoo, and, like, you know, these cards are going to continually get, like, buffed and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's where, like, hand buff makes a lot of sense, and I think Marvel Boy also is a really awesome shout just to repeatedly do this. Of course, energy is the thing, so maybe you're running some weird kind of hybrid thing. Maybe you're running like a Hope Summers Kitty Pride as well, to be able to continue to pump out a lot of energy.
There's
and
a lot
stuff
of
too.
There's a lot of really fun stuff to mess with. Just with these two, there's a lot of. I think people were really down on Clea, and we're going to talk about our rankings here in a second because there are two more cards that are speculatively data mined-esque in terms of information, but aren't confirmed 100%.
So, like Dance was saying, we do have 2 data mine cards. We don't know if they're legitimately going to be coming out this season, but we're inferring that is what's going to happen here. And we're going to start off with Kid Omega, which Kid Omega is a card that we have been talking about for at least, I think, about 2 months or so. If everything stays the same and he has the same ability, this card might be a little crazy, which is why they didn't want Elixir to get changed, like we were talking about too. Which
they literally said Elixir, it was fine as is because of a future card. There's no way, in my opinion, this isn't that future card.
Yeah.
So like this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Do you want to say the ability? Sorry, you're stoked. I know you're stoked on this guy.
So Kid Omega is a 2 cost, 2 power, activate card, destroy the next card you play this turn to gain its power. So have you ever thought about a potential global destroy, not on reveal, and Venom kind of combination? So you could tuck this behind a Cosmo.
Tuck?
And you can...
Sorry, he said tuck. It's my trigger word. Forgot to tell you that.
You can put this behind a Cosmo, and then they can't Red Guardian this. They can't Lady Deathstrike this. They could armor another lane, yes, but you could play this card and it's enabler for Dormammu. It's enabler for Elixir. It's a great hit for Nimrod to be able to get extra Nimrod value. Like, of course, Kid Omega is, I believe, an interface for Nimrod or helped create Nimrod, which is why it kind of coincides that way. I do believe. I remember I was reading some X-Men a while back. I don't remember the specifics, but I know it's very similar what they can do, or like they're like spawns of each other kind of thing. But I think this card is potentially really crazy. Niche, super niche for what it does, but niche is okay if it's crazy, you know?
Niche is okay if it's crazy. I mean, we've seen that with Scorn, right?
Mhm.
Scorn is like, why would I use this anywhere other than discard? But if you use it in discard, like, oh my gosh, discard's never been the same. Like this is gonna be a really fun card. I hope it comes out this season. Because it's really interesting. It's really fun. And then there's one more card that's also potentially that we've talked about before, and I'm like, I don't know. Still,
Cobra.
2 cost, 3 power. Activate. Switch one of your opponent's created cards here to your side. Like, cool. I get to steal an opponent's created card. I don't know. Have fun with that power stuff. Like, your Strange Supreme gets weak. I don't. I'd like it if this card was cool. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think this card, if we thought Kid Omega is niche, this one's also niche and narrow, and it's like one of those cards where like you have to presumptively play either because your opponent has a created card or you play later in the game to steal their created card so they're not getting value from it. So you're stealing that Power Stone from Thanos so he doesn't get to keep that extra 10 power he gets. Like it's just very interesting. It's a good Airship counter, right? You always get value against the Airship.
I will not complain about more Airship counters personally.
No.
But as we talked about this card, I'm just gonna. So we do our rankings every single season. At the end of last season, because we had talked about Cobra, we both had him as our last option. We have 10 cards this season. He's last for me. Is he last for you?
Yes, he is last for me.
All right. He's last for both of us. But who do you got? We're gonna go up backwards. Because I've started us here. And this is where we are. We're on the worst one. Who's your one that you're next most excited for?
You mean so like from 10 to
Or
9? Like this is 9?
Yeah. So
okay.
number 9 now, right? Excited. You're just whatever your personal ranking is. We're saying that like fun,
I think 9,
strength, whatever.
9 is Jennifer Kale.
That's a fair shout. I think she's my number 8. I'll say.
Okay.
Because at my number 9, I've actually got the ancient one.
Okay.
I think that. Oh, actually, you know what? Am I? No, I'm actually gonna say Morgan Le Fay. Actually.
Morgan Le Fay at 9. Okay.
Because as much as like, all right, I've spoiled 2 of my spots, right? My number 9 is Morgan Le Fay. Number 8 is Jennifer Kale.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 7 is the ancient one. Just due to the fact that just the what's Victoria hand value with the ancient one seems really cool. So I think that there's a lot of stuff there that I think I'm willing to wait on, especially Mr. Fantastic potential value. And just Morgan Le Fay just feels a little bit too hard to use properly. That I don't understand it, so I've ranked her lower. I could be easily wrong, but my own understanding means that I don't get the card here, so she's gonna move down a little bit in my own personal rankings.
And something to preface here too is like with these rankings, we're not saying all these cards are bad. We're just saying in overall just scale of the other cards coming out this season, where we would rank them on how they fall in general.
Yeah, and that's also not even, for what it's worth, I'm not even gonna fully just use strength here. This is just where I'm personally excited about cards.
Okay.
And she's just down there. What do you got?
So Cobra, and then Jennifer Kale. And then I would probably go Ancient One, then Morgan Le Fay.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. Ancient One, then Morgan Le Fay.
Mm-hmm.
Then who takes your number 6 spot? The next one that you're like most about.
This is where it gets really tough because these other 6 cards I'm actually pretty fond of. I probably then go Clea at 6.
So my number 6 is Nicholas Scratch.
Okay.
I do like him, but I just am, in my own personal excitement, he's just not that high for me.
Mm-hmm. He's my 5.
He's your 5. I that makes sense. I get that. I think I still have Clea higher. And am I about to say that? Because if I get to my top 5 here, I'm gonna say Nightmare.
Okay.
And because I believe it's gonna be really good, but I said it at the beginning of the episode, if a card is too good, I get less excited by it. I think, and I think Nightmare is gonna be too good potentially. And as cool as it's gonna be potentially, he's fallen. He's lower than I think other cards potentially should be. I don't know, but I will say following this, just to continually give a bunch of heat, I'm gonna throw Dormammu at my number 4.
Dormammu at 4.
No,
Okay.
really? Is that above Clea?
You have Clea above Dormammu?
No, Kid Omega is my number 4. Dormammu seems like a lot of fun. That's just it's such an interesting card. Okay. Ooh, okay, I know the order for a top 3 now. I know it. Okay.
Because I have Nicholas Spark at 5. I'll put...
It's Scratch for what it's
Or
worth.
Scratch, not Spark. Oops.
I didn't know the difference.
Number 4.
You said it in the way that reminded me Burger King foot lettuce. Number 4.
I think... I'm going to have Dormammu at number 4.
Okay. Dormammu at number 4. I'm writing this down as well. Gotta make sure I have this for future stuff. So then, your top 3, you have Kid Omega, Merlin, Nightmare. I've got my top 3 right here. I don't want to influence you. What do you have?
3 is Nightmare.
Okay.
2 is Kid Omega. And 1 is Merlin.
That is fair. Yeah. I have for my number 3, I've got Clea. Then I go to Merlin. And then I've got Dormammu. The more I thought about it, I just realized I was incredibly wrong about the way I was thinking it. So, in total, just so we have a recap of that bit, your number 1, Merlin, followed by Kid Omega, then Nightmare, you're rounding out the top 3, Dormammu close behind with Nicholas Scratch behind him. You have Clea, then Morgan Le Fay, then you have the Ancient One, Jennifer Kale, and the worst card, Cobra.
I think. Yeah, no, I think I like that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame, but yeah. So then I'm going Dormammu, Merlin, Clea at my top 3, followed by Kid Omega, Nightmare, Nicholas Scratch, the Ancient One, Jennifer Kale, Morgan Le Fay, and Cobra. Like, here's the thing. The distance between, my personal opinion, 9 to 10 is insane. There's about another 10 cards that I probably could fit in between those two. I'm just not stoked on Cobra.
My headset died while you were saying your last bit.
I realized that a bit too late after I did my pause. The card is probably going to be fine, but as I'm doing my thought process, I'm realizing all this stuff. I'm just like, I'm just not stoked by it. Well, as his headset dies, use that as an opportunity to go save your own headset from dying by subscribing to his YouTube. Just subscribe. I don't know. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Subscribe to his Twitch channel. Follow his Twitch channel. Follow him in real life. Stalk him. Do it.
No, do not stalk me.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm so sorry. Fix his AC while you're at it. But he's a really great guy, really cool person who I personally enjoy hanging out with. I enjoy yapping with every single week, as well as just chatting on the regular. So if you would like to get some absolutely great content from a really great guy who has a great sense of humor, great hair, great beard that I've learned that I just had to stop competing with, so I just shaved off the whole beard part, go follow him right now. Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, TUCCRR.
Guys, you know what you guys gotta do. Before you do any of that, please make sure you're following Dance on all of his channels. his Twitter, his Twitch, his YouTube, which he is going to be posting a lot of content this week because we have a lot of cards we've been talking about. We weren't even able to get to this last section because we had so many cards to talk about. Well, we're probably going to be adding that to our next Yap, which will be next week. But definitely follow Dance on all of his platforms. Variety Gamer, huge Marvel Snap guy, very knowledgeable guy, very talkative guy. This man likes to yap, hence the name Marvel Yap. But please make sure you guys are following Dance on every platform because he freaking deserves it and even more. Please make sure you guys do that. And please comment at the very end of this video how you feel about Dance's mustache that I think is beautiful. But we want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you guys are excited for these brand new season as well. Let us know down below, what is your guys' ranking of the new cards coming out? We have 10 potential cards, allegedly. We at least know we have 8 cards for sure coming out. So if you don't want to rank 10, rank your top 8. And if you want to provide reasoning, feel free to do so. The comment section is your canvas for you to draw on. But we want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys have a great week and have a great Infinite Climb. We have a lot of stuff happening this season. And good luck in the tournament if you guys are participating in the tournament this weekend as well. But until next time, it's been real. God bless and laters.
I could be your canvas to draw on.